Yeah, good to be here. Good to be among you all. So, yeah, today I'll be talking about a little bit more technical. It's a very technical subject. I hope you like it. And I'll be talking about clean code, object calisthenics, and best practice, okay? When you're going to create a module, when you're going to, offer some service. I mean, in the Magento world, like this level of engineering is very, very important. So clean code, object calisthenics, and best practices. This is me. I'm Matheus Gontijo. I'm from Brazil. Yeah, folks, we do have a Brazilian here. Yeah, let's talk about soccer. If you guys want to talk about soccer, like real football, just talk to me, huh? Okay, so I'm a software engineer at Crimson Agility. Crimson Agility is a consultant company. We just work with Magento. If you want to talk about great projects, just talk to us. And I've been working with Magento for over 6 years with the platform. I've been speaking all over Europe, South America, now North America. I mean, pretty much all over. And the point is there something that kills software developers? I mean, is there something that really, oh my goodness, it kills our software developers? And is there something that everybody hates in the engineering level? Because, development is a very important part of the building, the e-commerce and the whole thing around our market. So is there something that kills? Yes, there is. And 100% of the guys that talk to agree with me. So it absolutely kills software developers. I mean, nobody can even understand that, and it's so bad. Nobody can work with this thing, and if our software developers are very exposed to this kind of code, it just, everybody try to avoid and to skip as much as they can. So, yeah, it does kill software developers and makes us crazy. But okay, so the main idea here is just, because it's not something that happens just every once in a while. It happens with a certain level of frequency. So, and there are some guys in our industry, they still, in our community, they're still building things like that. And the idea of educating our software developers is very good. I mean, challenging to them to code better in order to make better code and make better products and deliver and, make a greater market for ourselves. So, and by the way, so just to let you know, poorly written codes equals countless hours of work, which means our souls are basically drained by work with that code. It's a huge amount of time wasted, which leads to money wasted. So it is very unpleasant. Nobody works. It's encouraged so much. It's encouraged a lot our software engineers and our projects. So we don't want that, do you? So I don't think so. Okay, but the thing is, stop with negativity, right? So is there a way that we can improve this? Is there a way that we can make sure we do the thing in the right way? So there is, but how? Exercising. If you go to soccer, I just mentioned soccer here, but if you go to soccer, volleyball, even any sports like MMA, I mean, fighting. So exercising is part of their culture. I mean, playing an instrument is part of the culture. I mean, everybody believes that it's very, very important in their culture, exercise part of the culture. And they strongly believe that greatness comes from exercise and practicing and doing over and over again. And this is the idea. So practicing as much as they can. So, and there is object calisthenics. Object calisthenics is, by the way, has anybody heard about this term before? Okay, somebody? Okay, nobody? And object calisthenics provides this idea. So calisthenics means gymnastic exercise, is a Greek word. And the concept came from the book from The Thought Works Anthology of Jeff Bay. And his work gathers and brings us a collection of exercise to focus on pretty much maintainability. Because if something is not maintainable, it takes lots of time, it's painful. If you can read your code, it takes lots of time. So, and it's not testable, it's not comprehensible. So And there are lots of guys that endorse this practice, and by the way, huge guys in the PHP community. And by the way, Magento is built on top of Zen Framework 1, and like Rafael Dams and Guilherme Blanco are like core committers of the Zen Framework 1, which means that our Magento stores are built on Zen Framework 1, which means that it has pieces of Rafael Dams and Guilherme Blanco's code in there. And they endorse. And I don't want to bring something extremely complex because we have lots of buzzwords, lots of AI things going on there, but I don't want to bring something complex, right? I want to bring something very simple that you can go back home and bring to your company, share with your software developers, encourage them, like at least to try to rethink their way, to challenge them to write a better code, in order to create a better ecosystem. So, but I don't want to explain, and by the way, 30 minutes, something very, very, very complex, very simple. My idea here is like bring 9 rules, very practical rules, like fast forward, like straightforward rules that makes us write a better code. I mean, exercise. I'm going to bring 9 exercises, okay? But first of all, as I just said, it's not the rules itself. Because when I say rules, it sounds like, okay, if you don't follow this, you're wrong, or if it's right or wrong, or binary, or 0 or 1, or right or wrong. So it is not the idea. My idea is challenging as much as possible, be open to questions and questioning our code. So I think it's just beautiful. My job here is just make you guys rethink the way we build software, we build Magento, right? I'm going to bring these rules as close as possible to Magento world as a Magento software engineer. So as I have just 30 minutes, I'm going to go through very, very quick through the 9 advices, 9 exercises, okay? So, and by the way, very, very simple examples. It can be much more harder. I mean, they're real world, but for the sake of easy understanding, the examples will be very, very easy, very soft. Okay, so the first advice, so the first exercise is only one method, only one level of indentation per method. Okay? Has anybody seen something like that in coding? So that's just horrible. That's just unbelievable how. And by the way, as I said to you all, so there are people that still build software like that. I mean, oh my goodness, without the Hadouken thing, but they still like creating those lots of, so in this the idea, just one level of indentation. Other than that, if you don't do that, you still writing code like that, lots of indentations, very complex. It shouldn't be that complex, or things like that. Even Einstein, even like Linus Torvalds, I mean, the Linux creator cannot maintain this code because it's very hard to, to maintain. So I'm just giving an example of how it should look like. So let's say I'm creating a process to update description, any kind of description, customer or text or anywhere in the Magento world. So we have update description class, we have the process, the method, and we have some CSV files. Export files came from everywhere, from John, from Peter, from Mary, manually, from the database, Oracle, MariaDB, MySQL, or any export from CRM or ERP. So let's say that we have to iterate the array because a multi-dimensional array, which means an array inside another array. And the point is, you have like a level of complexity. It could be way better if you just, okay, you know what? There are 3 levels of indentation. And by the way, the thing with showing slides is the thing. I could not put so much logic because it didn't fit in this slide. So basically all these slides with code, I just summarized, just put them as few as possible. But the real world, as you guys can see in the comments, like some logic here, because there are real logic there. Can you guys imagine like 3 iterations, 3 levels of iteration, just with logic like that? What if I want to just update the end of the file? I have to go through the whole thing, so it just making sense. I have to iterate. So I don't want to do that. What I should do instead is like this. Like, breaking the 3 levels of indentation and 3 different methods, because I'm going to segregate. I'm going to separate in different roles. So I think it's way better. If I want to change the file, just go to the last method, the third method. If I want to change, the groups itself, I'm going to the first and after the second if I want just a group alone. So it's very easy. Benefits, the benefits of following this exercise. It's easy to understand. It doesn't break single responsibility principle, which is the S of solid, and encourages a lot the reuse. Other than that, I cannot reuse the same code. Is one code alone I cannot reuse, I have to copy and paste, which is terrible to maintain afterwards. Okay, so the second advice is this. We should not use the keyword else. Okay, it's very, very challenging, but why? Just because it doesn't make any sense in OOP, Oriented Object Programming. Why? Because usually the methods are shorter. And if you put some else, you're going to increase levels of indentation and levels of complexity. I'm going to explain in the next slides. But you should not be using I'm going to show you a good example how we can change this. Let's create a class in order to subscribe emails, newsletter emails, but just for the group VIP, okay? Just for the group VIP newsletter emails. So, but obviously it has to follow some rules. The email has to be valid, obviously, and it cannot be duplicated, which means it cannot be registered again, and the email has to be assigned. It's not any email, it has to be a customer assigned, and that customer has to be a VIP, a part of VIP, you know? Okay, so usually people, most of the guys write code like that. So subscribe method, and then is this email valid? Is this email already registered? Is there a customer assigned to that email, or blah, blah, blah? And you know what? I don't think we should have that complexity. We can write the same code, end up with the same functionality, but easier just by practicing. And we see all the time this, and software development. But you know what? We don't need the last part of this code. Lots of else's. What I could do instead of just if, and else, just write code like that. It's basically the same thing. It's the same thing at the end of the day. So I check if the email is valid, and then if it's not, I just return. I early return. I pretty much work with the errors first, and if everything is all right, I just do what I have to do. So I have to check if the email is already registered, if the customer is assigned to it, this customer is a part of VIP, and then I subscribe at the end of the method. So it's much more readable than that, don't you think? Okay, so obviously I can save the errors and throw at once, not just one by one, but one after another, but I can throw the errors all at the same time. The benefits, it decreases cyclomatic complexity, it prevents code duplication, I can reuse the code, and legibility with the single path. What I mean by single path and what I mean by decreases cyclomatic complexity is like this. This is the way I just showed the example, the good way, the right way. I just have one path and one path alone, and everybody is way easier to understand that path. But what usually people do with lots of ifs and else's and all sort of levels of indentation, something like that. Something that was simple, became very complex and not easy to understand. My idea is in 10 seconds, 15 seconds, I can describe very well, or in some level of understand what that method does. So, okay. And instead of creating something like this, they create something very complex, and in order to just go to where they need to go to, they over-engineer. So, and I have the third advice. The third exercise is that all the primitive types, it needs to be wrapped. Okay, we have to wrap all the primitive types. Why? Because of the fact that, let's say we have emails, we have zip code, we have phone number, we have IP address. We have to validate it over and over again. And it makes no sense because we have lots of duplicate code. And let's say we created a class about another email. And okay, we have customer, we have email, we have zip code, we have IP, we have all sort of different strings. But you know what? Strings ain't nothing. I mean, strings accepts everything. I can put everything I want in a string. So, like email, it doesn't mean anything. Like zip code doesn't mean anything. Everybody can mess up with the data, right? So it can change completely. Hey, Talash, can you please take my charger here? I think I'm gonna have a problem if I don't take it. Right in my bag here. Thanks, man. So, and this is how the code looks like. I mean, inside. So you have to do fast. Yeah, right in the center. Oh, I thought it was like full charge. But, and okay, I have to check over and over again if the customer is valid, if the email is valid, if the zip code is valid, and it's a valid IP, everything. But you know what? I don't need that code. Why? Because I can simply purely wrap up in a different class. I mean, email class, and then and zip code class and IP class. And then as soon as the IP, zip code, or email are created, I can pretty much just, throw an error. So right now, oh, thank you. Thanks, man. Okay, we're beautiful now. We don't have that problem anymore. If somebody tries to mess up with the data, they will not be able. So because I protect my data first of all before sending to the internal processing within the class itself. Okay, beautiful. All right, you guys remember I just showed that code? So I don't need that anymore. So because of the fact it was already checked before it enters to the class. So you guys seeing that code? I don't need that anymore. Everything's resumed to that. So isn't it cool? And by the way, I can use, why? Because I can use type hint, and I can pass all over my module, my extension, all over my Magento ecosystem. I don't need to recheck every time I do the job. Obviously, I could encapsulate in some helper, which, by the way, is not an idea that I like, but it could be done that way. But it's much more, understandable to the team that module, that encapsulation works better. And by the way, if I change the validation, I can just change once and gonna change everywhere, my entire my system. So the benefits: type hint, encapsulation of the business rule, prevents code duplication. By the way, if you know DDD, it's like just a value object. So fourth advice, first class collections, or fourth exercise. So we have like a class, and we have an array, comments. But all the time, over and over, we have to, change. Incredibly, we have to change the array. I have to add some elements, remove, filter by ASCII, and filter by if it is active or not, is it active or not, sort by higher rating. So I had to do lots of operations with their array. But this is the thing. It breaks lots of rules of engineering. One of them, like single responsibility principle. So what could I do instead is this. I'm going to segregate. I'm going to create a class called collection, comment collection, which, by the way, we'll be implementing the iterator, SPL, PHP library. And then I can add, remove, filter. And then I just refer to the comment class. And that's beautiful because now I have encapsulate, I have segregate, I have put in a single place. Okay, so, yeah. Just the benefits I just told you all. Additionally, with class filtering, mapping, ordering, and order. So, yeah, 1 dot per line. By the way, Object Calisthenics was created by Jeff Bay, and it was created originally for Java. We don't have dot in PHP. We do have this arrow or accessor, And he says that you should only use one accessor per line. Okay. Have you guys seen that in your projects? Yes, cool. What about that? Very common in Magento world, isn't it? Get reveals, get collection, and then count. I don't think it's a good thing. But have you guys seen something like that? Oh my goodness. Yeah, What about there's a new pointer here? What about if there is an integer here? It returns an integer. It's going to break the entire system. And by the way, if I change the API a little bit how it works, because it knows too much of how the whole thing works, it's going to break the entire system. But if I do something like that, it's like less dangerous. But if I do something like that, we never will break because of the fact it's encapsulated inside. Nobody knows what's going on there other than the product object itself. So yeah, so by the way, it's not something new. It's like back to the 70s, like law of the meter. The guy introduced the idea that we should just talk with our friends, not with the strangers. So if we're talking with the strangers like that, which means, you know, they can tell something wrong. So, except obviously for the fluent interfaces, which, by the way, was great to work that way, like collection, attribute select, and attribute filters, and, you know, all sort of this chaining. That's all fine. I don't see problems with that. Okay, benefits, law of the meter, and legibility. Don't abbreviate. Oh my goodness. There's lots of guys that abbreviate too much. Does anybody know what the result look like? I mean, the variable total? Nobody knows because it's like super encrypted formula that nobody can understand. So and even classes, people, I mean, write code still writing code like that. CST, ism, isf. What does that mean? I mean, customer. CST like customer. Is male, is female, read only. Oh, add to the group. You know, so, and even templates, the same thing. Customer, get, CST, and CST, oh, it makes no sense. So now if you write code like that, I can't understand. Oh, customer, first name, last name, nickname. Okay, that's all beautiful. Legibility and maintainability. Okay, keep all entities small, so nobody loves to work with God classes, right? Do you? I don't think so. So please, long files are hard to read. So no methods with over 20 lines, no namespace with over 15 files, and your class should have like 200 lines maximum, no more than that, because obviously it's not complex, but it also is not that easy. So it's just something challenging in a day-to-day basis. But it's like way to go. Legibility and maintainability. No class with more than 2. The book says 2, but we agree after the book came out that 5 is a better number, right? I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's a better number. Like most of the people agree that 5 instances, variables per class methods, it's better. You know, like, because if you go to Magento, there are some classes that are crazy, lots of dependencies. Folks, what is that? Okay, I think it could be a refactor, right? I'm going to help the guys out, but this is the thing. It's way too much. It could be like at least half. Oh, I know that this class does a lot. I know that. But at least half? Can we do half? I think so, but yeah. So this is the idea. Don't put too much. Higher cohesion, lower coupling, shortened dependence list. That was too much. And maintainability. And my favorite, just to finish, no getters and setters. That's a very polemic thing. It's a very good discussion. There's my view on that we shouldn't be writing, at least for the most of the things, we should not even use getters and setters. I'm going to explain why. Let's create a approval process of comments, right? Comments, very common thing out there. Let's approve them. But there are a few people that will approve the comments or not, and then we have to track for sure, which, by the way, is very important to track the previous status, the new status, the user that made the change, and then the date, you know, the time, the date. So previous status, new status, user that made the change, and then date. So, and the first approval, there is already a comment out there. I just refers to my database. There is like an approval, and then I set the comment, which comment ID I want to, and obviously I set with getters and setters the previous status, which is new because there is no record before, and I set the status, which is pending, which is very important, pending. And user is John, and set approval at the current date. And then I save. Okay, I do the same thing. Look, it's very, very, very similar. John to Mary. But Mary is not pending anymore. It's like from pending to fixed typo. It's pending by John and fixed typo because Mary found out a typo. So she just found out a typo and she's assigned like typo. Hey, fix the typo. And then the thing is, somebody called David changed to approve. Now it fixed. So let's. But the thing is, guys, we can change the whole thing after 1 week. We can mess up with the entire API. I mean, somebody the new in the team can mess up with very easily with the database. Let's check. So this is like the export from the database, like CSV file, but they figured out something wrong. Okay, new to pending by John, January 1st. Pending to fixed typo by Mary, January 2nd, or this year, 2017. And fixed typo, from fixed typo to approved by David, January 3rd. But wait a minute. There's approved from approved in 1999 and December 31st. What? Makes no sense. No makes sense at all. So, and by the way, if you change the way, we don't use the getter sentence anymore, we just approve use the encapsulation. It's just beautiful because I don't need that anymore because the hacker have done that thing that way. So I can put anything from approve to approve, deny to deny, approve to approve, deny to deny. So, and hacker here. So what is the solution? To encapsulate and hide the business rules inside the method. So, by the way, it's not new as well. So, and the way I should be write my code is something like that. I just pass the variables and the object inside, you see, John, Mary, and David. At the end of the thing, I mean, in that way, nobody can mess up with my code. I mean, because the object is intelligent enough to do the entire job, not needing anybody else, just by his own. So nobody can mess up the code like that. Internally, it's like set. We shouldn't even be using inside, but anyways, you can use, and then save, and that's it. We don't have that problem anymore. So just a real recap. I have all this. I just showed very quickly these advices, exercises. Good to think about it, to try to implement, and most important, you should try at least once. See what's going on. See if it makes you happy or not. If you improve your code. So that's pretty much what I got for today. So this is my Twitter. If you're gonna see me all during today, the rest of the day, and tomorrow, the entire day. So if you want to talk to me, that's fine. If you have any questions, that's it. Thanks.
Hey guys, so up next is a break, and then afterwards is a keynote. So you guys can hang out here and ask questions of Matthias for the next half an hour as much as you want. No questions? Cool. One sec.
Hi. I wouldn't say it's as much a question as it is an endorsement. I came late, and I saw at the recap you said one level of indentation. And I was like, oh, that's cool. What about else? And you're like, no else's? I'm like, that's exactly what I do. So if anyone, I strongly recommend this also. You could always avoid else if you think about the programming by maybe returning early or something. So just an agreeal.
Yeah, I would say that if you start with those two, man, you're going to love it and go the rest. But yeah, obviously, I think the most critical are the first two. Absolutely, yeah.
So if we're avoiding else, it's a pretty easy solution if we can return early. But there are circumstances where we don't want to return early necessarily. We want to, if one thing, do this, and if something else, do that. Would you recommend sequential if statements as opposed to using else? Or do you have another methodology that you would suggest?
Beautiful, yeah. Yeah, most of the case I might say, this is the thing, when I got to know this else keyword, we should not be using that. The first thing the guy that told me, I went to his project, and man, I tell you, 97% of the time, he didn't use any else anymore. But I figured out there are few. And I opened up the code, and I saw, you know what? I think that in this case, because the logic is very difficult, it's okay to use. You know, I'm not blaming the guy whatsoever. That's fine. But for the 97% of the things we do, we should not be using. And by the way, there are 3 or 4 more other design patterns that helps us, like to encapsulate and access the method. We should not be checking, hey, it is a car, it is a vehicle, or it is a car, it is like a bike, or it is something else. We just create like an interface, and then we don't need even an if statement, because we just access the method inside. So it's a design pattern. I don't remember the name right now. But there are 2 or 3 other ways to avoid the else. But yeah, you can use it sometimes. It's extremely important. So yeah.